A Secret Service agent is supposed to risk their lives to protect the person under their protection. If you're the director of the Secret Service and one of the people under your custody that you're duty-bound to protect ends up an inch away from having his head blown off, what could possibly cause her resignation? There you see the image. There's in the upper left-hand corner is the shooter on the roof. He's 400 feet away from President Trump, who's here in orange. And you can see that there's a direct line of fire. I mean, that building is right next to where the crowd and the stage are. How is it conceivable that the Secret Service didn't think to look there? Now, they go on to ask her about that, and here's what she tries to justify it with.
And so, there's a safety factor that would be considered there, that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof. And so, the decision was made to secure the building from inside.
All right, now, this is what I mean by not only unbelievable explanations, but also contradictory ones. The first explanation that the Secret Service gave for why they didn't secure that building was because it was outside of their arbitrary and very tiny, apparently, perimeter, where they just say, we're going to just take care of threats here, but threats outside, that's not our concern, even though we're the Secret Service. And so the Secret Service said from the start, that building was not our responsibility because it was outside the perimeter. But here she's saying, oh no, we were aware of that roof. We even thought about putting somebody on there, but we decided not to for safety reasons because the roof was sloped. The shooter had no problem at all climbing up there and being extremely comfortable on this dangerously sloped roof. A roof too sloped to allow a Secret Service agent to be on the roof safely because he might fall off a two-story building with that slope. The shooter was able to not only get up there and walk over to where he wanted to be and then lie down and position himself with perfect balance to aim right at Donald Trump's head and get off 5 or 6 shots. But even once he was killed and he no longer had control of his body, his corpse did not fall off the roof. And the explanation for why there was no Secret Service there was because it was too dangerous to put a Secret Service agent on a 2-story roof right next to where President Trump was speaking, even though this 20-year-old kid with no training climbed right up there, was completely comfortable on there, never fell off at all, and not even once he was dead did his corpse fall off. It's a sloped roof, and that's too dangerous for the Secret Service.
Says the Secret Service was responsible for the inner perimeter of the rally where Trump was, but local police were responsible for the outer perimeter where the gunman was located. In Washington, lawmakers demanding answers, calling on the Secret Service director to appear before Congress.
We will be transparent, both internally with my own folks and externally with members of Congress and with the American public. That's what the public deserves.
The President and Homeland Security Secretary said today they had 100% confidence in you, but there are some members of Congress calling on you to resign.
I appreciate the Secretary's comments, and we're going to continue to be transparent and communicate with people.
Do you plan to stay on? Absolutely.
I do plan to stay on.
She has no intention of resigning. Now, let me ask you this question. I mean, it used to be the case that people in public life had a sense of shame. People would resign all the time if they were responsible for things but failed to fulfill that responsibility. In certain cultures, people kill themselves in order to expel that shame from their family. I'm not suggesting anyone do that. I'm just saying that there are cultures for accountability far greater than the one in which we live, even when it works. But there's no accountability anymore. You look at the corporate media, as I said, Jeffrey Goldberg was more responsible than any other single journalist for selling the lie, the crucial lie, that Osama bin Laden and Al-Qaeda were in a secret alliance with Saddam Hussein. Something that was obviously crucial to get the public to believe, because that was the only way the public would support an invasion of Iraq, is if they believed Iraq had a connection to the 9/11 attack and 70% of Americans actually did believe that, even 6 months after the invasion took place. A lie of that magnitude would be instantly career-ending for a journalist in any sort of minimally accountable society. And yet, not only did Jeffrey Goldberg not suffer any career repercussions, as we've recounted many times, he continued to thrive even more than before that happened. He was at the New Yorker and he was enticed to go to the Atlantic, where the then editor David Bradley sent ponies to his house, exotic ponies for his kids to play with in an attempt to lure him to run the magazine. And he now runs that magazine for the large donor billionaire heiress Lorene Powell Jobs. So he continued to rise. Natasha Bertrand, after all of the CIA lies that she spread, including the idea that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, kept getting promoted throughout media. There is no accountability in corporate media. When's the last time you've ever heard any of them admit any real error? Notwithstanding how many times what they've said proved to be completely untrue, let alone resign for it. It's a completely accountability-free industry, and that's true of Washington as well. If you're the director of the Secret Service and one of the people under your custody that you're duty-bound to protect ends up an inch away from having his head blown off solely because, by mere coincidence, he happened to move his head at the very last second, if that doesn't cause the Secret Service director to resign, what could possibly cause her resignation? A Secret Service agent is supposed to risk their lives to protect the person under their protection. And you saw how brave they are, how trained they are. They climbed onto that stage despite having no idea whether more bullets were coming, and they took their own bodies and used it to shield President Trump. They were ready to get shot in order to protect him. That's the job. So these people who are willing to put their lives on the line, who are expected to put their own bodies between a bullet and the person they're protecting, none of them could safely go on a sloped roof, despite how obvious of a danger point that was. And yet this 20-year-old just climbed up it, like what, he was Spider-Man or something? It was because it was an extremely easy building to ascend, and it was obviously not a very steep slope given the ease with which he managed to do all sorts of things on that roof without even getting close to falling off, including once he was dead. So the more explanations you have that make no sense, the more effort there is to shift blame, the more effort there is to obfuscate, of course the more doubts and skepticism there's going to be about whether we're being given the whole story. That's irrational. That's a rational thing to do. And I think all that's going to happen is these doubts and these questions and these beliefs that there's more to the story than what we're being told are going to continue to grow precisely because of the behavior of the director of the Secret Service and the Secret Service itself in obviously doing everything possible to protect themselves and doing almost nothing to ensure that the public is informed in any credible way that they actually have an understanding, that we actually have an understanding of what happened there.